No one remembered who first saw it. Maybe it was a technician on a mining rig near Mars. Maybe it was a child streaming cartoons on Luna. But at exactly the same second, across every frequency, every network, every display in the solar system, the screens changed. The familiar blue glow of the holofeeds flickered once, twice, then turned black. A low sound hummed through the air, deep enough to vibrate bones. People looked around, confused, annoyed. On a transport shuttle, a passenger frowned at his wrist pad. In a cafe, streams froze mid-sentence. In orbital control, soldiers lifted their heads as one. Then the emblem appeared, a black spiral on white. Simple, ancient, the mark of the Galactic Empire. Most viewers had only seen it in archived news or warnings from the outer colonies. It felt distant, something that belonged to other stars, other wars. But now it blazed on every screen above Earth. A voice followed, calm, smooth, without warmth. Citizens of the galaxy, for the crime of rebellion, punishment has been delivered. Let this transmission instruct you all. The picture sharpened. Static cleared. Gasps filled rooms across the planet. The image was not computer graphics, not fiction. It was real feed, broadcast from orbit around a living world wrapped in blue clouds and green seas. The caption at the bottom burned out words in the Earth trade tongue. Terra Nova. Everyone knew that name. A new colony founded by humans 40 years before. Population, 10 billion. People leaned closer to their screens, eyes wide. They could see vast cities, beautiful and bright, stretching across the continents. They could even see the tall, white towers humans built to welcome alien traders. Children waved at the sky, tiny figures barely visible through atmospheric cameras. They were smiling. Before the sky split open, at first the light was beautiful. Then the fire came. From orbit, Imperial dreadnoughts opened their weapon ports. Lines of red energy fell downward like glowing rivers. In seconds, oceans boiled. Skyscrapers turned to shadows. The camera trembled, then turned, capturing pieces of land breaking apart. Continent edges crumbling as air itself screamed. On Earth, some people shouted at their screens, "Stop it! Stop it!" Others sat frozen, palms pressed to glass, whispering prayers. Power stations overloaded from too many connections trying to switch off, but the broadcast would not end. It forced its signal through every barrier and played on. Inside an Earth defense bunker, General Mar Delane slammed her fist on the console. "Cut the feed," she ordered. Her text sweated, trying every command. "Ma'am, it's locked. The source is embedded through quantum relay. There's no line to break." "Then shut everything down," she barked. But power routers refused, like the system itself was being held at gunpoint. Back on the holofeed, the camera drifted above burning cities. Mushrooming shockwaves consumed everything human on the planet below. Ships trying to flee were swatted aside by invisible beams. And still, the calm voice narrated, every syllable pronounced like a lesson. "Observe the cost of disobedience. Let no world challenge the Emperor." The feed turned colder. Half-melted continents, oceans turned black, clouds red as blood. The image zoomed on one city still recognizable. Through smoke, a huge human symbol stood. Two hands holding a blue globe. Above it, a final ship tried to ascend. Lightning fired from orbit. The ship exploded in silence. The image froze on that moment. Then the Imperial emblem filled the screen again. Submission prevents extinction. That was all. 3 words that turned to ash in every human heart. Across Earth, silence fell heavy. The broadcast ended, but no one moved. Everyone had just watched 10 billion of their kind vanish, while an alien emperor smiled somewhere behind the scenes. In a crowded bar in Nairobi orbit, a miner crushed his drink glass in his hand. In Paris megacity, a teacher slid to her knees, sobbing. In the dark of the lunar night, a pair of children whispered, "Will they come here too?" For a long time there were no answers. Heads of state connected through emergency lines. Satellites spun. Civilians gathered in streets, some crying, some screaming for revenge, some too numb to speak. The world's great networks flooded with one question: why? But deep down, people already knew why. The Empire ruled through fear. And this was their way to remind everyone what fear looked like. In the Pacific Military Command Hub, General Delane stood again before the blank screen. She looked at her staff, dozens of officers, scientists, engineers, soldiers. Their faces were rigid, pale, but in their eyes burned a fire that even the Empire's weapons could not melt. 10 billion souls, she said quietly. 10 billion humans. They wanted to teach us a lesson. Very well. We've learned it. No one answered. They only listened as the hum of failing electronics faded into silence. Outside, Earth's rotation carried the planet through its morning. The sun rose over a quiet ocean, light sparkling on its surface, as if nothing had changed. But something deep, unseen. Somewhere in that sunrise, humanity crossed a line. Communities began to meet in secret. Leaders sent coded messages across old war networks. Military archives, long sealed, were opened again. On stolen slips of paper and in whispered words, the same phrase kept appearing. Enough. The first one to say it aloud was an old engineer named Saito working in a scrapyard ship dock. He picked up a cracked piece of hull plating from an old destroyer and whispered, "Enough?" Others nearby heard him. One repeated it, then another, until the word echoed against the metal walls. Before long, it became a chant, spreading through workers, miners, teachers, soldiers. Enough. Enough of fear. Enough of waiting. Enough of watching. Across the entire world, that one word united the species like never before. For the first time in centuries, humanity spoke with a single voice. Quiet first, then louder. It was not rage in their eyes. It was resolve. They were not crying for vengeance yet. They were planning it. In the imperial palace far across the stars, the emperor slept peacefully, certain no primitive world would dare answer his message. He dreamed of 1,000 obedient planets and his endless reign. But on a small blue world, under a rising sun, engineers lit furnaces, coders reopened abandoned war programs, and shipwrights began drawing new blueprints. The Empire had shown its power. They had broadcast the death of 10 billion human beings to remind the galaxy of its place. Yet, unknowingly, they had also broadcast a spark that would someday burn their throne. The last image of the day remained locked in every human mind. The burning of Terra Nova, the screams, the emblem, those hateful words. But behind all that horror, something else shone through, the truth that humanity still lived, still watched, still remembered. And soon, the galaxy would learn what happens when Earth says, "Enough." The fires on Terra Nova burned for months, but on Earth, something else began to burn, inside every human heart. At first, there were memorials. People built walls of names, millions of them, stretching across city plazas. Parents placed candles, soldiers saluted, children left small toys at the base. Then came the anger, slow but unstoppable. Governments tried to hold back the chaos. The Global Assembly met in emergency session for the first time in 50 years. Presidents, ministers, commanders, they argued beneath the old glass dome. Some wanted appeasement. Others demanded war. General Mara Delane attended the meeting in silence until the shouting reached its peak. Then she stood. Her voice cut through the noise. No more speeches. No more waiting. We either stand together or we vanish one by one. The Empire has already chosen the battlefield. It's the galaxy itself. The hall went still, even through the global broadcast. People watching at home stopped breathing. That short speech became the spark that lit humanity's next age. Within weeks, the assembly dissolved itself and reformed under a single banner, the Alliance of Earth. Old rivals shook hands. Borders melted. Armies became one. Every satellite factory, drone yard, and deep space dock turned its lights to maximum output. Letters went out to every citizen. Service or silence. Help or step aside. Almost no one stepped aside. The building of unity. Factories on Earth's moon ran without sleep. Forges on Mars roared so hot you could see their glow with naked eyes. Cargo trains cross continents carrying orbital elevators. It wasn't just soldiers who rose to the cause. It was everyone. Cooks, farmers, coders, teachers. In the North Atlantic shipyards, once abandoned, engineers returned to finish long-forgotten designs. Massive hulls rose from ocean platforms, black and shining, shaped not for beauty but survival. The secrecy was absolute. Outwardly, Earth sent polite messages thanking the Empire for its guidance. Behind closed doors, those messages had coded plans, shipping orders, and new blueprints. At night, the old engineer Saito, the man who had first whispered enough, stood on the docks with grease up to his elbows. He looked at the half-built warship above him and laughed softly. He wasn't a soldier, but the way he welded each seam, you'd think he was shaping a weapon meant for the gods. The scientific awakening. While welders and workers built with metal, the scientists built with light and thought. In underground labs, they studied the Empire's captured debris from old wrecks. Ships once considered indestructible became dissected husks, secrets exposed under human microscopes. Dr. Elena Voss, a physicist who had lost her sister on Terra Nova, stared at a hovering engine core one night. "Everything burns," she murmured, "but not everything dies." Then she smiled, faint and fierce. She reconfigured the core, found a resonance no Imperial design had ever used, and created the first stable human antimatter reactor. Word spread through the scientific circles like gospel. Humans, the primitives, as the Empire called them, had just leapt 50 years ahead through sheer desperation. Collaborations erupted everywhere. AI coders in Jakarta linked with material engineers in New Chrome City. Terraformers on Mars hacked weapon systems to repurpose their energy grids. Every failure became fuel for the next idea. The Empire, far away, received reports from its spies and dismissed them. Humans cannot organize, their analysts said. They argue. They fight among themselves. The broadcast broke them. How wrong they were. The first tests. 3 years after the broadcast, the first new human ships left dry dock under heavy disguise. They were labeled mining vessels on official filings. In truth, they carried pulse cannons and experimental warp cores. The maiden voyage of the ship Helios was simple. Jump to the edge of the Kuiper Belt, test engines, return. Astronaut Lee Tran, captain of the Helios, left a message before departure. To the people of Earth, if we reach the stars, we'll show them we're still here. If we fall, someone else will rise behind us. The Helios returned 2 weeks later, not only intact, but faster than any ship in recorded history. Its crew stepped down to thunderous applause. They brought back scans of a new phenomenon, a light wave field generated by human emotion itself. "Our computers don't understand how," Lee joked, "but the ship flies best when we're angry." People laughed, a sound Earth hadn't heard in years. The laughter was mixed with pride, the rising fear. From the outer colonies came rumors. Imperial observation posts reported human drive signatures they couldn't trace. Merchant ships vanished near the solar edge. The Empire dismissed it as technical error. But inside the Emperor's council rooms, advisors whispered uneasy words. "We shouldn't poke that world again." The Emperor waved them off. "Primitive fire. It will burn itself out." He didn't realize that fire was being shaped, forged, and aimed. The vow. On the 6th anniversary of Terra Nova's destruction, the Alliance of Earth held a silent broadcast. No speech, no music, only a single image. The memorial wall with 10 billion glowing names. Below it, one line of text appeared. "We remember, we prepare." Across the galaxy, the transmission blinked onto public streams before Imperial sensors could react. For 2 minutes, billions of aliens saw it and felt a chill they couldn't explain. Then the signal ended just as suddenly. Back on Earth, General Delane looked down from her office window at the factories, glowing blue in the night. She said softly to her staff, "Project Retribution begins." Her team didn't cheer. They simply nodded and started working. There was no joy in vengeance, only duty. The silence before thunder. Now the stars above were filled with secret traffic, drones, cargo craft, prototype warships with no registration numbers. They moved like silent hunters, invisible to ordinary scanners. Each day another piece of the plan clicked into place. Every man, woman, and child on the planet carried some part of the mission, from coding navigation AI to growing food for the crews. When the Empire finally noticed the faint tremors of human activity, they saw only fragments of information. A strange resonance in Earth's upper atmosphere, a jump in mining exports, a sudden absence of political chaos. They didn't understand what it meant, but out in the black between stars, in a ship testing range so distant no light reached it, General Delane watched a new kind of vessel rise from a dock. Its hull shimmered dark silver, its engines pulsed with the power of the antimatter heart Dr. Voss created. On its prow a single name was painted in bright white letters: Vengeance. The general spoke to her crew with calm precision. "We will never erase what they did," she said, "but we will make them remember who we are." Somewhere, a clock started counting. Each tick echoed like the beat of the planet's heart. The storm was no longer gathering. It was ready to strike. 6 years after Terra Nova's destruction, silence ended. Out in the dark reach, 40 ships appeared where no trade routes existed. Sleek, black, silent. They carried no flags, only names carved by hand. For Terra Nova, at their center glided the ship Vengeance, heart of the new human fleet. General Mara Delane stood on her bridge, engines humming beneath her boots. She looked toward the distant stars of the Empire and said, "They show the galaxy death. Let's show it memory." The fleet's first strike fell on an Imperial border station. 8 patrolling ships vanished before they could even raise a shield. One broken distress call escaped into the void. They never miss. They call themselves humans. Panic spread faster than any human ship could travel. Imperial governors demanded answers. None came. Every system hit reported the same thing: perfect attacks, silent retreats, no survivors. The myth began, the ghost of Terra Nova. Half a year later, the Emperor unleashed the 8th Legion, 500 strong. They found the Vengeance waiting. In 19 minutes, the Legion ceased to exist. Audio records captured one human voice just before the end. "We don't do submission. We do payback." That single line spread across the galaxy like fire. Soon slaves whispered it. Merchants repeated it. Even Imperial officers feared to speak against it. Worlds that had bowed for centuries now turned their eyes toward a small blue planet called Earth. The humans broadcast at last. No threats, no boasts, only imagery of burning Imperial ships and 3 white words. For Terra Nova, the feed ended, leaving the Empire stunned and silent. Its perfect order was cracking. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Reyes looked at General Delane. "One frontier left," he said. She nodded. Coward. Engines thundered. Stars stretched into ribbons of light. The reckoning fleet jumped, carrying the voice of 10 billion dead straight into the heart of the Empire. The Empire had never known fear, until the humans came. At first the Emperor's council laughed at the reports. Missing patrols, sabotaged arsenals, governors begging for help. But soon entire sectors went silent. Trade routes that had run for 1,000 years were now dotted with wreckage drifting in neat rows. A quiet human message that said, "We are watching." In the great capital of Orleans, citizens began locking their doors at night. On the public feeds, sensors erased the word Earth, but whispers still spread. They said the ghosts of Terra Nova traveled inside machines, hearing every transmission. The Emperor gathered his admirals in the war hall. Hundreds knelt before him as he rose from his throne of black glass. His voice once commanded galaxies, but now it wavered. "Why?" he demanded. "Can you not destroy them?" None could answer. One young officer dared to speak. "My lord, they move like us. They learn." The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to pause. Far away, human fleet struck again, this time not at military targets, but at broadcasters. Every public channel across the core froze. One image replaced them all, a memorial wall glowing with 10 billion names. Then a sentence appeared. "We remember. Do you?" The Empire's arrogance cracked. Crowds on conquered worlds began tearing down Imperial banners. Some soldiers refused orders. Some deserted entirely. They had seen the fire of Earth and no longer believed in the Emperor's invincibility. The propaganda department tried to answer with new broadcasts, images of human barbarity. But each feed ended the same way. Static, then a whisper in every language. "We are here." In the quiet that followed, even high nobles looked at the sky with unease. No one slept easily. And in the Emperor's private chamber, guarded by 1,000 soldiers, he dreamed of a blue world he had never seen. A world whose people would not kneel, whose silence had become the loudest sound in the galaxy. The Empire called defiance. History would call it the beginning of its end. Dark space above the Imperial core burned with new stars, the engines of the human fleet. After years of silence, Earth had arrived. The Vengeance led the formation. Its hull glimmered silver as plasma storms swirled around the Imperial homeworld. General Delane stood on the bridge, gaze fixed on the giant planet below, a sphere of gold towers and endless cities. "This is where they watched 10 billion die," she said. "Let them watch again." The Empire threw everything it had into the sky. 10,000 warships launched, surrounding the humans in a ring of fire. Their admiral broadcast a final warning. "Surrender, human fleet. Mercy will be granted to those who kneel." Delane smiled faintly. "Transmit reply," she ordered, and the comms officer opened the public channel across the galaxy. Her voice carried everywhere. "The soldiers, civilians, the conquered, and the free. You killed Terra Nova on live broadcast. Today we broadcast justice." Then the Vengeance fired. The first salvo tore through the command line. Ship after ship exploded in perfect rhythm, a chain of light wrapping the planet. Human AIs sang through the network, voices of the dead guiding each strike, whispering coordinates only they could see. Imperial guns blazed back, but the new human shields bent and held. Blinding energy lit the void, turning night into day. Every camera, every relay, every holoscreen caught the same sight, the heart of the Empire drowning in its own flames. On Earth, billions watched in silence. No cheers, no laughter, just tears and clenched fists. They had seen horror before. Now they saw a balance. An hour later, the Emperor's flagship, a mountain of black metal, broke apart, its pieces falling into the planet's atmosphere like burning meteors. As it burned, a final transmission played everywhere. "We are humanity. We did not start this, but we will finish it." Then the screen faded to black, leaving only the image of Earth's crest hovering over the ruins. In that sudden stillness, across the stars, every being understood. The Empire was over. The age of fear had ended. The age of humanity had begun. When the fire faded, silence filled the galaxy. Where the Imperial world once glowed, ash and metal drifted in slow orbit. No victory cheers came from the human fleet. Only quiet breathing, the hum of engines, and a weight too heavy for words. General Delane looked through the view glass at the broken planet below, her reflection distorted by the light of dying cities. "It's done," Captain Reyes said softly. Delane shook her head. "No, it will never be done. But maybe they will remember." The Vengeance turned away from the ruins, leading the fleet back toward the stars. They left no flags behind, no monuments, no colonies, only a message broadcast across every known network. "We do not conquer. We do not forgive. We remember." All across the galaxy, screens displayed those words in silence. And for the first time in centuries, the great systems were truly free. Planets once enslaved now lit their skies with new banners. Species long afraid of the Emperor's shadow finally stood tall beneath their own suns. Back on Earth, people gathered in the same squares where they had once watched Terra Nova die. This time, they watched the sunrise in peace. Children laughed. The factories slowed. Amid the crowd, the old engineer Saito wiped grease from his hands and whispered, "We kept the promise." Monuments rose, not to victory, but to endurance. Names of the fallen glowed beside names of those who survived. 10 billion gone, yet never forgotten. Decades passed. Stories changed into legends. Students learned about the Empire the way ancient humans once learned about dragons, terrible but gone. And when youngsters asked, "What does HFY mean?" their teacher smiled. It means humanity yeah, but that's just a joke. What it really means is that when everything burned, we still stood up. It means courage. It means Earth. In the far future, deep explorers still find traces of that first fleet. Scratches carved into old hulls. For Terra Nova. For memory. For us. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, a faint transmission still repeats, steady and eternal. We are here. We see what they did. We remember.